You're trying too hard and everyone can see it. I know that stung, but the truth usually does. You're over-explaining, oversharing, overreacting. You're showing up everywhere, saying yes to everything, trying to prove yourself, making yourself completely available to everyone. And that's exactly why nobody values you. This isn't about being mean, this is about being real. And the reality is that people respect what they can't easily access, admire what they can't fully understand, and chase what moves away from them, but me. I let my enemy destroy himself by saying nothing. Here's how. I learned this from Machiavelli. The truth is, what Machiavelli knew about silence would cost you everything when you ignore it. You're about to discover why the quietest person holds the most power. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at silence the same way again. But first, if you want to master the psychology of influence and control that I'm about to reveal, hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm sharing today could change how people see you forever. Picture this. You walk into a room full of people arguing, shouting over each other, desperately trying to be heard. Everyone's talking, no one's listening. Then there's one person sitting quietly in the corner, completely unfazed by the chaos. Who do you think holds the real power in that room? If you said the quiet one, you're starting to understand something that 99% of people never figure out. But here's where it gets interesting, and this might shock you. Comment below. Have you ever noticed how the quietest person in a group often becomes the most influential? Tell me about a time you've witnessed this. That quiet person isn't just randomly staying silent. They're using a psychological weapon so powerful that Machiavelli himself wrote about it over 500 years ago. And what's crazy is that this weapon becomes more effective the more desperate everyone else becomes for attention. But here's what nobody tells you about this power. You know what I'm saying? The man who perfected this technique wasn't a monk or a philosopher. He was one of history's most feared political strategists. Niccolo Machiavelli understood something that modern psychology has only recently proven. The person who needs nothing controls everything. But this isn't about being cold or emotionless. That's where most people get it completely wrong. What I'm talking about is something far more sophisticated. It's the ability to feel everything while revealing nothing, to care deeply while appearing detached, to hold tremendous power while pretending not to notice. This is called being nonchalant, and it's the most misunderstood form of dominance in human psychology. But here's the twist that nobody sees coming. You know what I'm saying? The people who master this aren't naturally calm. They're not born with ice in their veins. They've actually experienced more chaos, more pain, more pressure than anyone else, and they've learned to transmute that chaos into something else entirely. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will flip everything you think you know about confidence upside down. You've been taught that confident people are loud, assertive, always ready with an opinion. You've been told that to get respect, you need to demand it. That to be heard, you need to speak up. That's exactly backwards. Think about the most confident person you know. I mean really confident, not the person who talks the loudest or brags the most. I'm talking about someone who just commands respect without asking for it. I bet they're not the loudest person in the room, are they? Comment and let me know who's the most naturally confident person you've ever met and what made them that way. Here's what's happening in their mind that nobody else can see, while everyone around them is reacting to every stimulus, every comment, every slight. They're doing something completely different. They're watching. They're calculating. They're choosing their moments. Most people wear their insecurities like neon signs. They apologize before they speak. They laugh too loud at jokes that aren't funny. They overshare personal details to strangers. They constantly look around to see who's watching them. But the nonchalant person, they move through the world like they own it. Not because they're arrogant, but because they've made a fundamental decision. They decide what matters. This creates something psychologists call approach anxiety in everyone around them. People become desperate to know what they're thinking, what they want, whether they approve. And that desperation, that's where the power comes from. But here's where this gets really interesting and slightly dangerous. When you master nonchalance, You're not just changing how you behave, you're changing how other people's brains work around you. There's a psychological principle called the Zeigarnik Effect. It states that people remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. In simple terms, what's unfinished haunts us. Now apply that to human interaction. When you reveal everything about yourself, your emotions, your needs, your intentions, you become a closed book. There's nothing left to wonder about. But when you remain partially hidden, partially mysterious, partially unreadable, you become an open loop in other people's minds. They can't stop thinking about you. They replay conversations, looking for clues. They analyze your expressions, searching for tells. They become obsessed with solving the puzzle of who you are. This isn't manipulation, it's psychology. And it happens automatically when you stop trying to be understood by everyone. Comment below, have you ever found yourself obsessing over someone who seemed completely indifferent to you? What was that experience like? Machiavelli wrote that the appearance of virtue is more useful than virtue itself. Similarly, the appearance of not needing anything is more powerful than actually not needing anything. Because here's the secret. The nonchalant person does need things. They do have desires, fears, ambitions, but they've learned something crucial. They've learned that showing your hand is the fastest way to lose the game. I discovered this the hard way. 3 years ago, I was the guy who wore his heart on his sleeve. I thought authenticity meant sharing everything. I thought vulnerability meant having no boundaries. I thought confidence meant never backing down from any challenge. I was wrong about all of it. There was this situation at work. I won't go into all the details, but someone was trying to undermine a project I'd been working on for months. The old me would have confronted them immediately, defended myself publicly, made it into a big dramatic scene. Instead, I did something that felt completely unnatural at the time. I said nothing. For 3 weeks, I watched as they tried harder and harder to get a reaction from me. They made increasingly bold moves, thinking I was weak, thinking I wasn't paying attention. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. I was building my case. I was letting them reveal their true character to everyone around us. And then I acted. One meeting, one presentation, 20 minutes of calm, factual evidence. No drama, no accusations, no emotional outbursts, just facts, delivered with the kind of quiet confidence that makes people listen. The result? They were gone within a month. Not because I destroyed them, but because I let them destroy themselves while I remained untouchable. That's when I understood the true power of nonchalance. What would you have done in that situation? Confronted them immediately or played the long game? Let me know in the comments. Now you might be thinking, this sounds like playing games. This sounds manipulative. And you'd be partially right. But here's what you're missing. We're all playing games already. The question is, are you playing to win or playing to be liked? Look at social media. Everyone's performing. Everyone's trying to get attention, validation, likes, comments. They're sharing their breakfast, their workouts, their relationship drama, their political opinions. They're constantly reacting to trends, jumping on bandwagons, chasing viral moments. Meanwhile, the most successful people online are the ones who post rarely but powerfully. They don't comment on every controversy. They don't share every thought. They don't react to every trend. When they do speak, people listen, because their words are rare, carefully chosen, and carry weight. This isn't just about social media. This is about life. The person who speaks at every meeting gets ignored. The person who speaks once, with something meaningful to say, gets remembered. The person who's always available gets taken for granted. The person who's selectively available gets valued. Comment and tell me, have you noticed how the most successful people in your industry seem to operate differently? What patterns do you see? But here's the specific technique that most people miss. The difference between someone who's naturally nonchalant and someone who's trying to fake it comes down to one thing: internal scorecard versus external scorecard. Most people are keeping score based on how others react to them. Did they laugh at my joke? Did they like my post? Did they invite me to the party? Did they text me back quickly? That's an external scorecard, and it's a losing game. The nonchalant person keeps an internal scorecard. They're measuring themselves against their own standards, their own goals, their own values. They care about doing good work, building real relationships, achieving meaningful outcomes. When you switch from external to internal validation, something magical happens. You stop needing other people's approval to feel good about yourself. And the moment you stop needing approval, people start wanting to give it to you. This is the paradox of power. The less you chase it, the more it chases you. But here's where it gets really intense, and this is something I've never shared publicly before. 2 years ago, I was in a relationship that was falling apart. I was doing everything wrong, chasing, explaining, trying to convince, over-communicating, showing too much emotion. The more I tried to fix things, the worse they got. Then I stopped. Not because I stopped caring, but because I realized that my desperation was pushing her away. My neediness was making me unattractive. My constant emotional availability was making me boring. So I became unavailable, not physically, but emotionally. I stopped initiating every conversation. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped trying to solve every problem immediately. I started focusing on my own life, my own goals, my own happiness. Within 2 weeks, everything changed. She started reaching out more. She started asking what I was thinking. She started putting in effort that I hadn't seen in months. The relationship ended anyway, but not because I was chasing. It ended because I finally had the clarity to see that we weren't right for each other. And that clarity only came when I stopped being desperate for it to work. That's the real power of nonchalance. It doesn't guarantee you'll get what you want. It guarantees you'll see clearly what you actually need. So how do you actually develop this? First, understand that nonchalance isn't natural. It's trained. Like any skill, it requires practice. And like any powerful skill, it can be misused. Here's the framework. One of these. Step 1. Master the pause. Before you react to anything, a text, an email, a comment, an insult, count to 5. Ask yourself, does this require an immediate response, or can I think about it first? Most things don't require immediate responses, but our brains are wired to react instantly. You have to deliberately create space between stimulus and response. Step 2. Reduce your availability. I don't mean become unreliable. I mean become selective. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every message deserves an immediate reply. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Spend it wisely. Step 3. Speak with economy. Use fewer words to say more. When someone asks your opinion, don't give them a novel. Give them a sentence. Let them wonder what else you're thinking. Step 4. Master your facial expressions. Your face reveals everything. Practice keeping a neutral expression, especially when you're feeling strong emotions. This isn't about being robotic. It's about being unreadable. Comment below. Which of these 4 steps feels most challenging for you? I'd love to know where you're struggling. Step 5. Develop internal validation. This is the hardest part. You have to build a life that feels meaningful, even when no one's watching. Hobbies, goals, relationships, standards that exist independently of other people's opinions. When you're genuinely content with yourself, you naturally become less needy of others' approval. And that contentment is magnetic. Here's what I want you to understand. Nonchalance isn't about not caring. It's about caring selectively. You still have emotions. You still have desires. You still have needs. But you've learned to manage them internally instead of broadcasting them externally. You've learned that mystery is more powerful than explanation, that restraint is more attractive than desperation, that being hard to read is more influential than being an open book. This is not about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming selective with your energy, strategic with your attention, and disciplined with your emotions. The world is full of people who react to everything, chase everyone, and reveal too much too soon. Standing out isn't about being louder than them, it's about being calmer than them. When you master nonchalance, you're not just changing how others see you, you're changing how you see yourself. You're moving from external validation to internal validation, from reactive to responsive, from desperate to abundant. That shift changes everything. Your relationships become healthier because you're not coming from a place of need. Your career advances because you're seen as competent and unflappable. Your self-respect grows because you're living by your own standards rather than everyone else's. But remember, this is a practice, not a performance. You can't fake true nonchalance. It has to be built from the inside out, through discipline, through self-awareness, through the courage to be misunderstood. If this video challenged how you think about confidence and power, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment telling me, what's one situation where you wish you had remained more nonchalant? What's the biggest obstacle preventing you from being more selective with your energy? Here's a question that will haunt you if you let it. What would your life look like if you had learned this 10 years ago? Different relationships, different career, different level of respect, different quality of life. The good news? You can't change the past, but you can change what happens next. Starting tomorrow, you have the opportunity to rewrite your story, to stop being the person who chases and become the person who's chased, to stop being the person who explains and become the person who studied. Your first step, comment below with words that describes how you want people to see you. Let's see what you're aiming for. If you're ready to become that person, subscribe, because I'm going to show you exactly how to get there, step by step, week by week. Your future self is watching. Make them proud.